Hi, this is Vernon with the National Weather Service with a little midwinter update on where we're headed for the rest of the season. We appreciate all your help that you do for us. As one of our Weather Ready Nation ambassadors, we're always looking for ways to build resilient communities, and we really appreciate that. So this year we've been under an influence of high pressure for the winter time frame, but prior to that we were under influence of La Nina when we finished up the water year this last year. A good portion of the Central Mountains, including even to the Snake River Plain in the southeast, were well above normal for their total precipitation. Some areas were even over 150% of normal. As we move forward into this year's water year, you can see that basically all of Idaho is below normal, with a little exception up in the Central Mountains. Fortunately, there's still a good chance of precipitation headed our way, and let's take a look at that as we move forward. As we look at the snowpack, this is a comparison from last year about this time frame. You can see that a good portion of our area, all the snowtell sites, were above normal. This year a little different on January 11th, as you can see that there's only a couple of the basins that are actually above normal. The rest of the area below normal to the southwestern part of the state, well below normal. Looking at the headwaters of the Snake, good news there, at least they're at normal or a little bit above, and they keep growing each day with some of the storms that are coming through. In preparation for that, the Bureau of Reclamation has been holding their water back in their system, and the upper Snake continues to be at 87% full, and they'll probably continue that way through the 1st of March or so until they get a real good look at how the snowpack ends up in the next 40 to 60 days. So what is going to happen the rest of this winter? As I mentioned, we were under the influences of La Nina. Last year at this time, high pressure was sitting over west of the United States and allowing a good chunk of moisture to come into the western U.S. This year that cold air has been shifted off to the east a little bit, and so that's caused us to be a little drier than normal here in the western, but the La Nina still is impacting our overall flow across the area. And we anticipate over the next few weeks that a pattern that was similar to last year may set up and allow us to get a little wetter as we go forward. Our long-range forecasts do come from the Climate Prediction Center, and you can always go to this webpage and look at that data. They typically update at least twice a month. In fact, next week on the 18th, they'll come out with the latest outlook moving forward. So for the month of January, they were forecasting to, in the state of Idaho, temperature-wise, to be a typical wintertime temperature regime, but they were calling for above normal precipitation. So with the first couple of weeks almost done, we're really not quite there yet. So we're anticipating that in order to get this forecast to come true, we need to get a lot more active moving forward into the latter end of the month of January. In fact, our medium-range forecasters are anticipating our area becoming a little wetter. You can see that they are calling for heavy precipitation through the southern part of Idaho and even the Intermountain region back to the west coast. In fact, that's the week coming up, the 16th through the 20th. In fact, enough that they did a bullseye for kind of the southern part of Idaho and northern Utah as we go into that 8 to 16 day period, looking at all the way out to the 25th of January. The overall probabilities, this is the 6 to 10 day outlook. You can see that a good portion of southern Idaho has a high likelihood of precipitation, and that basically puts us into a kind of a southwestern flow, and you can see that the higher temperatures potential for that also. Good news, that puts snow in the mountains and maybe keeps some rain down in the valleys. As we go for that last full week of January, you can see that that wet trend does continue. Shifts a little bit further south into Utah, but we'll see how that ends up. And you can see at the end of that time frame, the temperatures do start to cool down and go a little bit below normal, which implies that probably a trough of low pressure is starting to build off the coast of the west coast, and which could continue to influence us well into the first couple of weeks of February. As we round out our 3-month outlooks, you can see that temperature-wise, that we continue right on the edge of being above normal to normal overall for the last part of winter and the start of spring. Precipitation-wise, you can see that they are still calling for a potential to be above normal precipitation over a portion of Idaho, and that lingers, this is February, March, and April, and then basically typical precipitation forecast for the start of the spring time frame. In summary, we are average to below average so far this winter in our overall precipitation. We are fortunate that we did have some liquid precipitation in October and at the end of September to help keep the water overall in that range. There is high confidence that we'll be wet for at least the next couple of weeks as we finish out the second half of January. And the overall forecast calls to be a chance to be above normal precipitation for the rest of the winter time frame. So cross our fingers that we can do that. And then overall, our spring outlook looks to be very typical with no trend of being above or below both temperature and precipitation. We appreciate this opportunity to give you a midwinter update. You can always give us a call at the office if you have questions 24 hours a day. And we look forward to providing you more information as we get closer to the springtime.